Good evening. Welcome to Liam's Library. Thank God we are finishing Needful Things today. No fucking around, getting right to the end of it. My reading group has been done with it a long time ago, and there's me doing this, that, and the other, and not getting part 3 done. So today's all about getting part 3 done. Because I just sat there and smashed the last end of it out, even though, like I've told you 100 times, I've read this lots. But you got to read it fresh if you want to review it fresh, because if I had just reviewed this based on what I already know about this book, it would have been a lot shorter. Definitely wouldn't have been 3 parts. And I might have said the ending was good. Now, having just finished the ending 5 minutes ago, and shout out to Tina Burgess, you're right. What the fuck is up with this ending? That is terrible. It's terrible. I've got my own a third page of notes just for the bullshit last page and a half. But let's get into it. When we last left Castle Rock, Brian Russ, the young fella who first bought something from Mr. Gaunt, had just blown his fucking head off in the garage while his younger brother Sean watched him do it. And he said, Sean, never go into Needful Things and stay away from Mr. Gaunt. He's not fucking a man at all. So that's happened. The town's, I'm not going to go over part 2. We all know what's going on. I told you. Everybody's killing everybody based on the setup that Mr. Gaunt has laid out. Anyway, part 3 now, to finish this off. Where we are now, Alan Pangborn, our sheriff, who still has no idea what's going on, fucking 590 pages in, he's at the hospital out of town to visit Sean Rusk and to find out why this kid's big brother blew his head off. Sean Rusk is the key to everything. This meeting where Alan Pangborn waits in the hospital to speak to this poor little kid who's just seen his older brother blow his face off, their conversation opens the whole thing. Now Alan realizes Needful Thing is the catalyst to all of this, and Leyland Gaunt is the devil and the monster behind what's going on in this town. So I'm going to quick look at my 2 terribly scratchy fucking notes. Yeah. So I don't have to talk about that. All right. Okay. So what I really like, right? Okay. Cool. What I really like is the Baptists versus the Catholics, right? So you've got two warring religions in the town of Castle Rock. One of the Catholics and one of the born-agains. And like I've mentioned, they're fucking with each other. They've been fucking with each other through the whole book, based on, what they bought off Mr. Gaunt and what he's making them do. But now we come to the war, and people in the town have been putting stink bombs, right? And they're timed, and everything is timed perfectly. So the Catholic women are in one building talking about something, the Catholic men are in another, the Baptist men are in one building talking about something, the Baptist women are talking about another. In all 4 of these buildings, someone plants a device that has this stink bomb attached to it. But it's a Stephen King stink bomb, so this stench will kill you. If you get close enough to it, it'll burn the eyeballs out of your head like some kind of fucking mace on steroids that's getting clouded into the air by these boxes that have been hid on tables and chairs of these buildings. And, and then they have someone yelling outside the window like, take that, you fucking Pope cocksuckers, or take that, you fucking Baptist rat fuck. And I'm actually quoting the book. Sorry for the language, but that's Stephen King in the 90s off his face on cocaine. He'll swear his face off at you. And there's some funny ones, right? So, but this, then the vomiting starts. So these buildings, people are trying to escape, right? But Gaunt has thought of that. So there's other people, part of their deed and paying for their item that they've purchased is making sure that they fucking lock these people in. So there's a crowbar wedged under one door, and these people are dying in there. People are choking and vomiting. There's broken necks. People are smashing into each other like lost fucking poor lambs and killing each other. And then they all get out into the street, and the storm hits. And the storm hits Castle Rock as the Baptists crawl out of one just stank building covered in blood and vomit and hating life, knowing that they have to just blame it on the Catholics. And across town, the Catholics have done the same. Crawling out of buildings, half dead, knowing that the only ones to blame are the Baptists. So the Baptists start singing Onward Christian Soldiers and start cruising down Main Street to go and actually murder the Catholics. And some state trooper is standing there watching this. He's not from Castle Rock. He really doesn't know what's going on. He took over that night with his boss, Henry Payton, the main state trooper, that's now supposedly looking after Castle Rock, even though he has no idea what the fuck's going on. And, it's about to get a hell of a lot worse. Anyway, this young state trooper is watching 70 born-agains walk down Up Mile Hill. No, sorry, that's Dairy. Walk down this big fucking hill, and coming up the other way is a bunch of Catholics, and they don't give a fuck that a cop's yelled them to stop and pulls his gun. One of them shoots him in the dick. You don't shoot a guy in the dick. That's not cool. I mean, fuck, we know that. Anyway, and it's ridiculously intense, right? So, but what's funny, alright, what cracked me up just now is one of their deeds was literally just to wait outside, look through the window of the Daughters of Isabella, wait for the stink bombs to start and for this woman to read a note, and then just yell some fucked up thing out, and they actually have a bit of a giggle and run back home to, gloat over the possession they bought. But I dare say they're having fun now, if they're alive, a lot of these people in town are starting to have a bit of fun with this crazy shit. But, the body count is fucking going through the roof. Alright, so it's like, this is the smell of Catholic cunts. I'm sorry that's on my channel, but that's a quote straight out of Stephen King's book here. This is the smell of Catholic cunts. And they eat this, you Pope fuck. Like, it's just some really, really anti-Christian, anti-Catholic stuff. And it's very quotable. Very quotable. Cracked me up. Anyway. So a lot of them die. There's war in the streets. So that cracks me right up. Now, you'll remember Cora Rusk. Okay, now Brian, the kid who blew his head off, the first kid to buy, the baseball card from Mr. Gaunt, her mum bought the Elvis sunnies, and every time she puts them on, she gets to fuck the king. But they're broken now, and she blames her friend Myra, so she goes around there with one of Mr. Gaunt's brand new automatics, full of that poison, coated on the bullets. And she's gonna kill her best friend for stealing Elvis away from her. As she comes in, Myra's cat, who's like this really nice Angora cat named Garfield, comes walking up. Cora Rusk just blows that thing into blood and fur. And I love cats, but that is just horrifying. And as she blows the cat away, she's like, what'd she say? Eat that, Garfield, or eat shit, Garfield. Anyway, no, it's eat that, Garfield. And fuck, man, I had to stop reading for a minute because that is hilarious. Now, she walks in on her friend Myra, and Myra's fucking this a photo of the king that she bought. A painting of the king that she bought off Gaunt. She's pretty much rooting it on her bed, like it's between her thighs. But she pulls a gun out from under the pillow, and there's Cora Rusk at the doorway with the gun out, like, you stole the king from me. And they blast each other, and then, as Cora Rusk is dying, she thinks to herself, don't worry, king, I'm coming to you now. But there's only darkness, and she's alone in that darkness. And that's the end of that little bit. So poor Cora Rusk died loving Elvis. I know someone else who loves Elvis that much. Probably more. Anyway, so where are we now? Cora kills Myra. Alan comes back to town to sort out Mr. Gaunt. Now, Gaunt has been 10 steps ahead of him every step of the way. Like I said, this book doesn't keep us in the dark. There is a mystery, but it's for Alan to solve. It's not for us to solve. We know what the fuck's going on straight away. And that's the whole point of the book. Like, we're in the know. We're the eye in the sky, and we're happy to know everything and just see it disastrously played out. This isn't a mystery. This is more of a disaster end of the world shit, right? So Alan comes back, and now he's going through all this stuff in his head. And let me tell you, it's a relief to find that Alan actually is finally putting two and two together. Now we can work out, why Nettie and Wilma died, why this and this and this. Everybody bought something from Leyland Gaunt. Alright, so there's a cool scene, right? And I will mention it. I wasn't gonna. A friend of mine, Tina on Facebook, she really loved the fact that Norris Ridgwick, the deputy, gets his shit together and really comes back with a bang. And he does. He's thinking of killing himself for his part to play in all the stuff that went down since Needful Things opened in Castle Rock. But another part of him, as he's standing there with a noose around his neck, tells him, fuck this. Like, if you're really sorry, go and fix it. Go and fix it, you know? Instead of taking the coward's way out. Anyway, he goes to take that advice that he's giving himself mentally, but then he smells Mr. Gaunt in the room, that English leather, that pipe tobacco smell of that old man, and he trips and he nearly fucking dies, right? But he manages to get out of there, head back to town, and his mission is to kill Mr. Gaunt because something happened while he was swinging there, right? The lightning struck and he looked at his fishing rod, you know, that flash fishing rod that his daddy used to have, and he thought he got cheap, and it's just this bit of bamboo with like some kid's reel tacked to the side of it. Like, he looked closely. That's what everybody bought. I told you this before. Like, everybody's buying shit off Mr. Gaunt. But that's not what you see. But Norris purposefully looks closer, realizes it's shit, now Mr. Gaunt's got to pay. So, like, his redemption is really cool. And, it's not refreshing. There's a lot of that in King's books, but yeah. I mentioned it because Tina liked it, but Norrie's not really that much of a character to me. Alright, so Ace Merrill and Darkness return to Castle Rock at the same time. That's a sentence in there. It's really cool. Anyway, but jumping ahead, Ace Merrill, the character, and Danforth Keaton, Buster, who just murdered his wife, get together on Gaunt's command, and with like a van full of explosives, dynamite, they begin to rig up the town. Whilst they're snorting cocaine together, because now Danforth's on cocaine. Hey, why not? It's a King book in the early 90s. Like, fucking everybody's on cocaine. Like, if you were loving a King, I'm sure we all will. Well, Dan and Ace do. Anyway, fuck man, Dan and Ace, what a party. But they rigged the whole place to blow. Literally, the first thing, they put their first pile of dynamite they put under the town bridge, set it for 40 minutes, and then as they go through town, they slowly split up a little and just douse the town with dynamite, and just, it's all on these shoddy little timers, but the timers work like a charm. The bridge goes up first, and only a couple of people mistake it for thunder because it's a fucking nuclear rifle blast that claps through the air and even gets the Catholics and the Christians to stop murdering each other for a minute. But then the rest of the town starts going up. Now, I did write something here because there's a stupid bit in it, right? Like there's these two pedophiles in town. They both work at the local school. Now they've got it in for each other because both of them thinks they outed each other. But then there's this weird bit where they actually have like a Western. They both have one of Gaunt's automatic pistols, and they have like a standoff. You know, a quick draw, McGraw kind of a fucking shootout. When the thunder goes, we'll shoot. And they both miss each other. But then I kind of get the joke, because they put Ace and Dan put so much explosives in the municipal building, it just liquefies them when it goes off. So the little shootout didn't matter. I just thought those two creeps didn't matter. Anyway, he's always got to put a couple of creeps in his book to make us wonder, doesn't he? Anyway, whatever. That's old news. Okay. I get to talk about my favourite scene in the book. And I like it just as much. I was thinking, well, maybe I think it was corny or silly. Spiders again. So, that thing around Polly's neck that she bought off Gaunt to stop her arthritis contains something. And I told you I wouldn't give away what it is. Anyway, now she has this dream of her Aunt Polly, her Aunt Evie? Aunt Evie. No, that's Salem's Lot. Anyway, Polly, Patricia, her auntie, I think it is Evie. Anyway, telling her, like, snap out of it, Polly. Like, who are you, little miss two names? Like, fucking, you know Alan wouldn't have fucked you over like that. Open your fucking eyes, right? So she does. She opens her eyes. She's not dreaming anymore. She rips the Azka off her neck, and as she throws it, she says, fuck pride, right? But it's this big moment in the book, you know, like the Azkar splits open with some supernatural force and lets this thing out as she screams, fuck pride, fuck it, fuck it, fuck it. Now, have you seen Pulp Fiction? It's like, you feel that sting, big boy? That's pride fucking with you. You fight through that shit, right? Fantastic. So two mediums, two two things I've seen with fuck pride as some big thing. Anyway, it just occurred to me to mention Pulp Fiction here because fuck pride. Anyway, the Ascar opens and this baby spider crawls out. This tiny, tiny spider, no bigger than half the thumbnail. But she realizes it's been feeding on her poison, her anger, her hate that Gaunt sown inside of her. And now that it's free of the little metal prison that it was in, it's growing, right? So she's got to chase this thing around her house and fight this spider as it goes to the size of a mouse, the size of a rat. Eventually, it's in her bathroom and she's fighting it with a plunger. And it's like mewling and doing this hell Stephen King spidery shit. You know, it's like you did this with Stephen King's It like 5 years ago. But, you know, cool. I've got no problem with it because spiders scare the shit out of me. So it's always scary to me. Me and King have got that in common. But she battles the spider, defeats it. And when she looks back in the tub, it's this big again. But it wasn't in her head, man. Like, she's biting the spider's legs off as it's, like, crawling at her. Like, man, I had a hard time with that. But it's cool. It's cool. And like I said... so the magic of the place. The magic of the place. When Alan, the sheriff, decided, right, enough bullshit, I am going to Needful Things, and I'm going to kick the door in, I'm going to find out what's going on. So he does. Kicks his way in, and the place looks like nobody's been there in centuries. Like, even has that feel and that smell. But he's been watching people come in and out of it for weeks. And the book says, yeah, but Gaunt is not a man at all. Yeah, but what is the magic? What is the science to the magic behind that? Because people have been coming and going. So, like, fair enough. We get it. He's supernatural. He's some kind of being. He has the power to fuck with time and space in certain degrees. But what kind of a degree? What? Like, he can act like he hasn't been at a place even though he's been there all week? Like, okay, so, like, prove me wrong with this bit. Like, I don't, like, it doesn't even really affect me. I think it's cool when Alan goes in and the place feels deserted. Feels like nobody has been there for weeks. Or for fucking years. But it still doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But he's having fun with that. Like I said, Stephen King, 1991. He had a really cool formula, and shit, man, you can't argue that it wasn't working. Anyway, Polly bites the spider's legs off. Ooh. Okay, the destruction of Castle Rock. Okay, now, 5 years before Stephen King wrote It. Real famous, right? We all know how famous it was. There's, like, as... you know, the losers start fighting the bad guy in that book. The town starts to go through this strange storm that seems to knit itself up out of nowhere. And takes over the town. And literally, as, like, you know, our protagonists are dealing with what they're dealing with, and we're getting a climax, also the town is just getting pulled to pieces intermittently as we're reading. Now, it happens the same way, just not as drastic to Castle Rock, because the people are tearing Castle Rock apart. It's like, you didn't really need the storm. Like, the storm helped, don't get me wrong, and the storm is unexplained. And the storm is a copy of the storm that came out of It. Did we need it? Did we not? I don't know. I've never read a version of Needful Things where King kept the storm out of it, so I wouldn't fucking know. But it could have been over... we might not have needed it. We might not have needed it. Just a thought. Just a thought. And there's a bit where all of a sudden everything just starts blowing up. Like, everything. And the old copper, who's just been useless, Seat Thomas's name is, he's like, well, they're going to blow up the town now, I guess. Yep, that'll come next. It's like Stephen King's dialogue in the face of fucking terrible shit. Anyway, so there's a line here which Polly actually works out what Gaunt's doing. So, like, what is he doing? Is he the devil? Is he there for souls? Is he some kind of weird ancient monster that goes from place to place, changing his form and buying things from people so he can consume some part of their better nature, some part of their soul, some non-physical part of them that he can get nourishment out of? You know, King's monsters are quite similar, but Gaunt's, this monster... has a little bit of a mystery wrapped around her. But Polly says this. He makes you buy back your own sickness, and he makes you pay double. Okay, I get that metaphor. Cool. Now, that's it. But I prepared this special bit of paper And on it is just a few points of the last, 5 pages. Not even 5 pages, last 2 pages of this book. I am not happy with this ending. This is Stephen King really getting away with murder. Fuck, when I read this blew me away. But it didn't blow me away the ending of, Rose Madder did, or the ending of, what's an ending that makes me cry? Like the ending of Roadwork, or the ending of, the ending of Black House is just so cool. Alright, the ending of Blaze just makes me, just oh, that's beautiful. I picture that. I just feel how he felt when he wrote that ending. This is Stephen King just tacking every supernatural, crazy bit of nuts bullshit he can stick together just to make us feel like we've had I'm sure this is how he felt it should have ended. So, Bag of Souls. So Mr. Gaunt walks out of Needful Things holding a bulging, writhing sack full of the souls of the people of Castle Rock. Moving on. The Tasty Munch Snake. So, Alan, this whole movie, won't get rid of the last gag his deceased son bought from a joke shop, which is a can of nuts that, when opened, is a big green snake. Alan opens that on Mr. Gaunt. It turns into a real snake momentarily because of magic and bites him. Lots of times, like a sewing machine. That happens. Then, that doesn't completely work, so Alan uses his fucking shadow animals that we have established earlier on in this novel that he can do uncannily well. And he uses his hand shapes on the bonnet of his car, and these shadows attack Mr. Gaunt. And he thinks to himself, the sparrows are flying again. Oh my god. Thad Beaumont, George Stark much? That's funny. And then a shadow Cujo comes out of his hands and the car and attacks Gaunt. I'm not making this up. I just read this just now. He even does abracadabra and does a folding flower trick that turns into a beam of light that King references to the coming of white, as if Jesus. And then he even says, this isn't Alan Pangborn, the sheriff, even says, "Go hence, demon, I cast you out." And Gaunt turns into a dwarf, jumps into his Tucker Talisman car, which starts turning into a horse and cart. They fly this black horse on an invisible sky road, and Gaunt and his hell wagon are gone. Right, that belongs in darkness. Let the darkness bear it away, Alan says. I had to put that in because it's a cool sentence, but at the end of all that is bullshit, right? And and they all sort of hug and kiss, and the town's blown up, and we'll sort it out at the end. Now we have an epilogue, and the epilogue is as the prologue. The prologue said, you've been here before, and it introduces us to Castle Rock and what it's in for. This epilogue also says, you've been here before, and it introduces us to a different town where a new shop has opened up, and it's going to happen again. But to my fucking surprise, I forgot. At the end of this book, the next city that Gaunt is supposed to fuck with is Junction City. And he even mentions Sam Peebles, the library policeman. Sam Peebles, Junction City, the local real estate agent that fucking has to deal with some crazy monster. So, and that's how it finishes. That's what I felt with. I mean, it left me with this dwarf, this big, ridiculous, supernatural, stupid fucking ending. Stupid fucking ending, what? That is some cocaine, man. And then it gives us an epilogue, which you're kind of expecting. It is kind of a cliche. Mr. Gaunt is going to set up somewhere else, and he's going to do it again under a different name and a different shop name. And it'll just go on like that. So he escaped, but he didn't get Castle Rock's souls. I don't know about that. But it does mention Sam Peebles and Junction City, which is from Stephen King's other book, Library Policeman. And there was never a proper crossover. I know, because Library Policeman is the 90s and Needful Things is the 90s. And they never cross paths. So that's cool. I think it's a great book. And I have faith that someone will remake it, because the movie version that came out in the 90s was terrible and not worth your time. But I also feel like people out there, our Hollywood favourites at the moment, aren't going to jump on this. I reckon there's 100 things with Stephen King that they will fuck with before anybody goes near this. We might get a Needful Things movie in 2025. Let's look back at this video and see how close I am when it does come out. Because it will. Everything will get made and everything will get remade. Anyway, that's it. Needful Things is finished. Thank fuck. They can go on the playlist now and we can move on. Because we'll be moving on to The Birds and The Howling. Thank you for your time, my friends. Please look after one another, read some great books, and watch some even better fucking movies.